Hello, boys and girls. How are you doing today? How are you doing, Mr. Titan?
We're doing great. It's a long weekend. Unlike you rich people who don't have to work all day, I work and I look forward to these Mondays off, man.
So is that a shit-eating grin you have on your face? Did something happen today?
No, so I bumped into some things. I was doing some research to find some information, and I started going back through Faz Radio. And then it dawned on me, we had just had this node vote, right? And we agreed to, as a community, everyone agreed that for a year, we would go with this proposal, right? And everybody in that channel, oh, it's just a year. We'll try it for no big deal. It's a year. All right. Do you know where Faz Radio was 1 year ago?
Where was Faz Radio 1 year ago?
We had just wrapped up our interview with Vera Awesome and played a game of the newly launched Spider Tanks with Family Man, and we arranged the game night with Nephilium Haas.
Where's Family Man now?
He's around. He's around. He spends a lot of time in Gold and Platinum over on the Gala server. He's on Forged in Crypto's server. He doesn't come to Faz Discord much anymore. This week, last year, we were interviewing Luke Bradenberg, who had a news service that was aggregating all the crypto news from all the different places and putting them in one place for easy digestion.
Whatever happened to that news service? What's it called?
Top of my head, I don't remember. But check this out. We were still 3 months away from putting video on for Faz Radio. We were still audio only for a long time after that. It was January of this year when I finally convinced you to go on video. You wanted to have a contest to get you on video and all that kind of fun stuff. But that's how long a year is. I had no idea. I was shocked. I was completely shocked that was a year ago. Those particular casts, and I thought for sure we had been on video for a lot longer than a year, and it's only been like 9 months. We did a year and a half, almost 2 years of shows just via talking, and we got all excited, if you remember, when we found that thing in OBS that would make the little thing when you would talk.
OBS is a pain in the ass.
That was fantastic. So I thought some Faz
OBS has a certain way it likes to be used, and it didn't like what I was doing with it. So it failed a couple times, and I had to abandon it. That's probably one of the reasons why we did decide to do videos. I couldn't get my animations right.
Yeah, and you had gotten StreamYard that we started using for the audio, and I was poking on the video button because I thought that would help us.
Oh, yes, you were complaining left and right about having to use StreamYard, and apparently you had come up with some better tool besides StreamYard. But you that seems to not have happened. Huh.
It did. Funny. It did happen, and it went without a glitch for 3 weeks. And speaking of glitch, Glitch Through Gaming had also bumped into it. The service was called Riverside. And for the first 3 or 4 casts, and I was doing a separate podcast at the time, first couple of those, beautiful, perfect, easy, quick. You could get shorts, lickety-split. It would make them for you. You had, it was the first one that brought the what do you call them, captions out automatically. And then Glitch started having glitches, and I started having glitches with the mouths wouldn't match, the audio wasn't matching up with the video, and it was dropping, and it turned into a nightmare, and then it wouldn't upload, and so I ended up with my own StreamYard account, and you took great pleasure in that, I think, when I had to go to you and say, hey.
Usually about 70%, 75% of the stuff that I answer, that you want to do, that I answer in the negative, you eventually wind up coming my way. Sometimes you get right. Sometimes you're right about things, and I'm only too happy to admit that to you. But boy, it takes you a long time to.
Well, that's what you hear me spout on here about due diligence and researching and digging into things. I am an experience-based person. I learn best by experiencing, and I love to experiment and try new things. And I wanted to try this hip new Riverside, and it got glowing reviews. I spent hours researching it. Everybody had nothing but nice things to say, so I'm thinking, this is cutting edge. It's solid. Let's do it. And then it handed me my ass about 3 weeks later.
All right. So there's this product I want to send something to somebody. I don't know if it's possible to do, but I would love to get like beer made in Faz Radio cans and send them to Eric Schiermeyer and Wright Thurston.
We are going to make that happen if it kills us. So if anybody out there knows where you can get custom beer cans made with beer in them, obviously, please let us know, because
now you can get labels.
That's a great idea.
You can get labels, which means I guess you could choose your beer, but it's not the same if you just slap a label on a beer can. I mean,
it has to be the can.
I want a black can with Faz Radio on it to send to Wright and Eric Schiermeyer, just because they've been providing so much entertainment today. Everybody loves this. Now, the thing is, what's really funny is especially Eric's responses, has validated all these rumors that has been going on for months, for like the last year. All the stuff that, Gala themselves have been playing down and talking around and getting really creative about not saying shit about. Now they're just saying right out in this, attempted lawsuit. By the way, I'm looking at my computer playing Spider Tag here. So, just so you know, I got to earn my silk coins for today.
So you're not playing it for fun. You're playing just to get your money.
Well, like I said, when it first came out, there is fun and there is money and there is both. And sometimes you can have both. And I rather enjoy playing it for the money. I don't have enough time in my life to play all day with fun, but I'd play a lot longer if I had time in my life. And see, I'm doing two things at once. I'm talking about this and I'm doing that. And this is a good game, brought to you by Gala Games.
Oh, here we go.
So anyway, yes, there's been a lot of fun today. Speaking of Gala Games, there's been a lot of fun today. It really annoys me, the fact that like I said, Gala Games has been talking around, not so much denying, but obfuscating and trying to make people wrong about all these rumors that's been going on, and they've just found no reason to let people know the truth of what's going on. People just want to know the truth. And so, of course, now we get to see that the rumors actually had legs. A lot of the stuff that you've been saying over the last year has legs. I've been demanding evidence, and it looks like Eric Schiermeyer had to bail you out here because you couldn't find the evidence.
So, we had talked a little bit even before the green room today, and we probably don't want to say what, but I do have to throw some love back onto Faz, because some of the things that I have argued, I mean, ridiculously hard on, to where the vein that's right here in my head like pops out. I'm arguing so hard with him.
That's your one brain cell, right?
Well, you can go with that. But some of the things that you have asserted over the years that I've argued back on, that there's no frickin' way that that's the case, we found out is the case. And so I told him,
I don't know
said,
if
look,
I said that as much. I always demanded evidence, and then I would give an opinion that I
no,
didn't think.
not about something that I would assert, but I'm saying you had speculation about this, and I would be adamant, pushed right up into the screen with my vein popping out, saying you were full of shit, and there's no way. And those have been correct. So we've learned a lot.
Okay, so are we going to get into this stuff?
We are. Where do you want to start with Wright, or do you want to start with Eric?
Well, we all found out about Wright first. We found out about him first, and then it turns out that Eric may have filed something beforehand. But apparently, if you look at the dates on things and stuff like that, apparently Wright filed something in June, and Eric responded to it in July, and now there's some sort of official filing yesterday, which Wright did first, and then which Eric did first. But it was like his retort. Actually,
yeah, it was amended. It looks like it was filed and then pulled out and amended, and the dates work out according to the latest information we have. And I think it was Burgundy who pointed that out, that it was June for the first one, and that was Thirsty's. We refer to Wright Thurston as Thirsty, and I came up with that because everybody would continually, in every Discord channel on every frickin' server, they would confuse Will Wright, who is the SimCity guy who's doing the Vox game, Voxverse. They would confuse Will Wright with Wright Thurston. And so instead of saying Thurston, I just abbreviated to Thirsty, and so that's where you'll hear Thirsty. We're not trying to call him a weird name or something, but just to differentiate so people understand.
Okay, so let's set this up a little bit more because I feel like we haven't enough. So apparently, what we found out today is Wright Thurston filed a lawsuit against Gala Games, saying all sorts of bad shit about Gala Games. We'll get to what the bad shit is. And then Eric Schiermeyer apparently had filed something. We find out that Eric Schiermeyer had filed something responding to Wright Thurston with a whole bunch of counter allegations themselves. Now, to me, this sounds like two millionaires basically cock blocking each other. But they're apparently having a good old time. And really what it's about is about money and who gets control of it and whatever. And so that's the base of what we're going to talk about is Wright Thurston apparently has some good stuff about Eric Schiermeyer. I know a guy named Eric Herman. And Eric Schiermeyer apparently has the goods on Wright Thurston. It's like they've both been like saving up all the stuff that they've hated about each other over the last who knows how long. And one of them pulled the trigger, and the other one's like, "Oh, you gonna do that, huh? You gonna do that? Okay, here we go."
So here's the funny part, and I've put this out in a couple of places. So we've had all of these holes in the Gala narrative and Gala story over the last year and a half, and everybody's like, well, that doesn't make any sense, or why did they do that? It doesn't make any sense. And
like, why did they reading Gala V2?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense why they were so adamant about getting V2 out the door. Well, so there's always speculation.
They just told you that they were going to do it.
But that's what I mean. It kind of came out of nowhere, So, I said, boy, after reading both of these, if you take the storyline the way each of them is written, both of them could equally fill every single gap and question and why behind the why. And that blew me away. I couldn't believe it.
A lot of the rumors that we've been hearing over the last year or two have been answered.
Speculation, yeah.
And that's so it sounds like these rumors are actually getting out intact and not being subject to the telephone game. I've always been demanding some sort of evidence for these rumors, but it turns out that a lot of them are right. And of course, Eric and Wright provide evidence for the rumors. Why not just get it out there earlier? I think Old Man Smithers was saying on CFA, just get it out sooner. But of course, everybody wants to hold all their bile for strategic purposes.
So we will get into that when we get into Eric's document, because I have a couple of things I want to say about that. We're not going to go through the whole document. We'll be here all night. We did post in the announcement on CFA, we posted these documents, so if you're having a hard time seeing them on the screen for whatever reason, if you're on mobile, you can download them and go through them with us, and you can see what it is that we're talking about.
We could also post it on the video at some point, too.
Yeah, this started, so we're one page in. We're on the first page of the actual filing here. And it says, brings complaint against defendant Eric Schiermeyer for corporate waste, unjust enrichment, and removal of Schiermeyer as director and president of Blockchain Gaming Partners. Blockchain Gaming Partners is the actual name, the corporate name of Gala Games. It's called a DBA, or doing business as. You can file a certificate that says, yeah, my company's name is Faz doesn't know what he's talking about /LLC, but I'm going to do business as Titan knows best. And either one it's kind of interchangeable.
So, okay, so they have all these things. Can we summarize them to some degree? It seems to me,
well, yeah,
let me start. It seems to me that Wright Thurston's complaints have a lot to do with procedures on how that Eric Schiermeyer had done a bunch of things without board approval, and and was going into a lot of procedural stuff, in my opinion. It seems that Eric Schiermeyer, his retort was a lot of Wright Thurston is a bad guy. He's done a lot of bad things with his businesses and scammed a lot of people. And then I forgot what his actual assertions were after that. But in this case, he stole money. He stole a bunch of Gala. So so they both seem to want what's that? Wright Thurston said Eric Herman acted independently of Gala Games. They hadn't followed a lot of procedures. They had apparently deprived him of an ability to vote and perhaps get money. So what I think is if Wright somehow took money from Gala Games, maybe he thinks he has a right to it.
You've called him Eric Herman now twice.
I know.
What is it with the Herman thing?
I know a guy named Eric Herman, and and he's one of the few Erics I know.
Somebody was pushing on me about this today in CFA. According to this document, it's 44%. Each of them, him and Eric, Thirsty and Eric, each own 44% according to this. I don't know if it's in the other document or something, but somebody was saying in the documents it said 40. But that's where I got this number, was up here. True North and its shareholders arising from its position as 44.762 shareholders of Gala Games. So that's where I got that. I did want to point that out because I didn't have time to type when I saw that come through. Accusing him of malfeasance, mismanagement, and self-dealing. I mean, these are some big ones. And it was funny. Everybody, by the time they got to page 6, which is shortly thereafter, you read this stuff about all the claims that he's making, and everybody, every single person that read it said, holy shit, after they got to page 6.
What's it say on page 6?
Well, it goes down and it lists all the things that he did. And these are like bombs, man. These are not like, well, Eric picked his nose and wiped it on somebody's shirt and laughed about it. Like this is like hardcore stuff.
Like what? Name something. Something egregious. I know that they said something like I think Wright said that he bought a plane without permission for apparently $5 million.
They had agreed, according to this, they had agreed at a board meeting that they were going to sell corporate assets instead of the token, because they obviously wanted to hold their shares a token. So instead of selling the assets, Eric bought a $5 million plane apparently with it instead.
With Gala? Or
with Gala's money. Instead of selling things, he bought things.
Wait a minute. Okay, wait. Let's think about this. So they wanted to sell corporate assets instead of selling Gala for whatever reason.
Yes.
And so, did he buy the plane with Gala, or did he buy it with his own money, or did he buy
No,
it from
he
his
bought it with
salary?
company funds, as I believe the
Well,
words
then
that were
that
used.
sounds like that. That sounds like that kind of gets around that because I mean, you could still sell company assets. It's just what you're going to do with the funds afterward. But if I recall correctly, it's like whatever Eric did wasn't approved by the board or something like that. So apparently Eric has been on a spending spree that's not been approved, and these are all the bad things. Well, he is the CEO of the company, right? I mean, it's up to him to determine what his money should be spent on, right?
It's subject to board approval, apparently, at those levels.
Well, see, and this is where it's hard for us to say. I don't know all the board bylaws and stuff like that. There might be a technicality that that Eric wound up using.
And this is where it gets sticky, and we're going to have to follow this to find out what evidence is actually there, because with both of these lawsuits, we don't know, right? These are all allegations, meaning they're accusing the other of whatever wrongdoing, and they're listing it out. The burden of proof is on the person making the accusation. So whatever that Thirsty says in this document, he's going to have to provide proof for.
So in that case,
the same goes with Eric.
In that case, Thirsty's gonna have to go cough up the bylaws of Gala Games, and that's going to be pretty much cut and dry. That seems like it's pretty simple to prove or disprove. Under this law or under this policy, this couldn't happen without. And all Eric Schiermeyer needs to do is say, well, under this other policy, I can do it, or I did the thing covered by the policy in the vote. I just did some other thing, and he gets out of it. So to me, it seems like almost Wright Thurston found a rule, and he's like, hey, you didn't follow that rule. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, so here's where it gets real juicy on page 9. Over the last 12 months, Schiermeyer has exercised unilateral control over operations, assets, and profits. During that time, he has flouted the founding and charter documents and has covertly acted and engaged in transactions on behalf of Gala Games and used Gala Game assets and earnings for his own personal benefit without consent of the board or shareholders. For example,
those are loaded sentences. There's a lot of accusation in each sentence.
Here's the examples. Caused Gala to send millions of dollars in cryptocurrency to Jason Brink, Gala Games president of blockchain, for unapproved
Could he have had a good reason?
Reasons.
Wait. Could he have had a good reason to send it to Jason Brink? Could have been for compensation. We don't know these things. So what? How come just because he says he sent money to Jason Brink, all of a sudden it's bad? That's what I'm getting at. I just want to be honest about what's going on. And
that's what he's going to have to prove.
Well, yeah, he's going to have to prove that Jason Brink got it in some sort of nefarious way, or nefarious reasons, or outside of his pay grade, or I don't know.
There's a lot of speculation. We talked about in the Gala Stuff channel. I threw out a wild speculation on why that might have been. Caused Gala Games to distribute valuable NFTs to himself and select employees without board or shareholder approval. By designs, those should have been randomly distributed to members. Caused Gala to intentionally destroy hundreds of millions of dollars of asset value by burning Gala tokens.
Okay, now so this would seem to me to be within Eric's right to burn his own tokens. It sounds like the assertion here is that maybe he should have asked somebody first. Well,
that
again,
and
you get back to the policies and how the company is structured. We don't know these things.
We don't know with that burning if again we're skipping ahead, and I hate doing this part, but in the other documents, the accusations from Thirsty's side here is those tokens were tokens that were supposed to be his, and Eric burned them. So that is where that accusation comes from. And that's why I said this document is ridiculously long. These are the overview, and then they go deeper into the minutia further down in the documents. All right. So we could spend 3 hours on each one of these. Misappropriated millions of dollars of funds, including using company funds for buying rental real estate for personal use, transferring company assets in his own name. There's the jet. But the big one in here is where we come down. Schiermeyer's Gala upgrade caused substantial harm to the value, among other things, causing cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase to delist Gala and rendered worthless all Gala held by all other Gala holders whose tokens were not accessible at the time of conversion.
Well, so and remember the reason why he did this upgrade was to apparently squeeze Wright Thurston out of, 8 billion tokens or something? So
yeah, that's in the other documents.
So Coinbase saw, and not only that, doing that kind of thing, I thought this was a decentralized currency. Now he's just shown it to be centralized. So Coinbase is probably rightly like, what the fuck? You know, you created something. Now you're going to go create something else. I thought that this was something that you didn't have control over or shouldn't. I thought this was decentralized. And it turns out to be extremely centralized. He can just go and swap the token with another one just like that. And, for what it's worth, from a tax point of view, everybody getting the new token, if you had $1 million in Gala token, and you got Gala V2, you've just been handed another $1 million. While your other token has gone through the floor, which means you have to pay taxes on this. So I've said this before when we talked about this when it happened. A lot of people got butt fucked, and they probably won't know it until the IRS comes knocking on the door years from now, saying, "Give me our money."
Yeah, and he says here, Schiermeyer effectively converted 5 billion Gala V1 tokens in the True North wallets and destroyed the value completely. As a result, True North, which is Thirsty's company, lost the equivalent of about $151 million in Gala tokens.
So, Thirsty's angry because his tokens that he purportedly stole have been invalidated. So it seems like Eric was doing it for a good reason. I don't even have a problem with that. I have a problem with how that went about. How did it? I mean, was this voted on? Was this approved? Did he just do? Is this just in his job description that he can do it? Okay, fine. If he did, what more is to come later? Could he just do it again later because he didn't like maybe how I have a bunch of Gala? He could just fork Gala and just ice me out,
So one of my contentions over time about Gala becoming more decentralized every time they do something, apparently Thirsty thinks so too, as he said, the burn further destroyed the value by centralizing control and power over the ecosystem.
Yep.
And that's against the core principles regarding the larger ecosystem and community. That was a big one. After burning True North's Gala tokens, Schiermeyer reserved some Gala V tokens for himself. He also granted himself sole control over company wallets, receiving future V2 tokens and other digital assets. So it really boils down to a big argument. The top layer argument here is, Eric's assertion is Thirsty walked away. Thirsty's assertion is Eric pushed him out. And that gets further pushed on here. Schiermeyer later directed the company controller to not share any financial information with Director Thurston and deleted him from internal company communication channels. So the assertion here is, I tried to be a part of Gala, but they wouldn't show me the books. They wouldn't let me into the Slack. They wouldn't let me into Discord. I couldn't be a part of this because I had no access to information. Thurston, as director, attempted to discuss this and other matters with Schiermeyer and has made multiple attempts to call. Now, this will be easily provable, right? We have cell records. We have electronic communication records. If this is true, Thurston should have zero problem proving this in court. He just shows the phone records, the electronic records, the emails, all of that. Schiermeyer has rejected all of Thurston's good faith attempts.
Well, it seems that let's go to the other side now, because Eric's made a bunch of assertions. You've gone through a bunch of Thursties, because we want to be even-handed here. So it seems to me...
No, we are. We'll go through Eric's, but there's one more really, really big one here that sent shockwaves through a lot of people, and I'm trying to scroll down to find it. And then I'll pull up Eric's. I can only share. I can't flip-flop between the two. You're only allowed to share one document at a time here.
Okay.
So what it has to do with, here's where he's talking about how he's nitpicking the majority vote laws and stuff like that. So in here, as I find it, I'll talk about it. So the big assertion was that Eric went rogue when creating Gala Music and Gala Film and the companies associated with those. And Eric made himself the majority shareholder in those offshoot companies, and basically eliminated Thurston from being a part of those, even though they're still with Gala Games, right? So there's two sides on this. First of all, those companies would have had to have been founded and run and funded and all that stuff, which we don't know if they were. If you remember 2 or 3 weeks ago when I asked Brink in chat, hey, is this really 3 companies or is this just Gala? And he responded, right now it's just Gala. And we haven't broken off into those other companies yet. So far, it's still just one, which raises all kinds of problems with this lawsuit because of the allegations. He was unjustly enriched at the expense of it and the detriment of Gala Games. I want to find that, and I don't know this well enough to point out where it went. I don't know if you can mark these things up. The founders' agreement was supposed to be each of them have 50% ownership. They set this up completely wrong. Here they talk about what Eric talks about in his documents by setting up the wallets where they were going to hold all the money. Where is it? Oh, here, this is interesting too. They, on the 4th claim for relief, they want the court to kick Eric out of the company, basically. They want to force him out and say, you're not allowed to be a part of Gala Games anymore. And basically, at that point, Thurston would pretty much own the company. I think that's how.
So there's a lot of assertions. So I've heard you say a few times that Thurston is basically saying that he wanted to do stuff with the company, but was iced out of it.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of this is saying is he's been trying to get into the operations, but Eric had kept him out. And one of the
that might be a little bit tough to prove. I mean, it's if there are meetings, so Eric has asserted that Wright would be gone for months at a time. That's going to be hard to prove if Wright is not there to begin. If he's not there, basically.
Well, they would have to show too that they attempted to communicate to him that there was a meeting and he did need to be there. And if Thurston didn't answer him or answered him by saying, just do what you need to do, until all that comes out, nobody knows anything. But if there's no record of Gala trying to get a hold of him when they conducted board meetings or anything, that's going to be a big problem.
So a lot of the stuff sounds provable.
It does. And that's the thing is we're going to find out pretty quickly with this case who's full of shit and who's not. And you have, just like this node vote, right? You have people who want to tend to believe Thirsty's side, and you have people who want to believe Eric's side of this. I've asserted, I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think they're both probably telling somewhat of the truth, but maybe not all the truth, so help themselves, or at least what they think of themselves. So you don't know until we see more of what evidence is put out. These are all just claims. But as we move on now to Eric's, while I pull that up, you and I had a discussion a little bit before this. And maybe we can go into what your definition of a lie is.
Well, my definition of a lie is something that you have knowingly told somebody something that was wrong. There's the reason I'm sure you're wanting to get to this is there's been a lot of statements by Gala Games about some of these subjects over time, and it might turn out that some of them didn't know. Maybe part of the company didn't know, and they're just repeating a line. So the question is, were they incompetent or were they lying? Or were they not informing each other? That kind of stuff.
So one of the things that you had already brought up is this V2, the reason for the V2. It was put out in AMAs. It was put out on Medium. It was put out in almost every Discord channel. That this vote, or the V2 and everything else, was for contract upgrades because they couldn't do the things that they wanted to do. And this was primarily the front-facing guy who happened to be Brink. And that was the reasons that were given. We can't do what we want to do with V1. And we have to have these upgrades. We don't want something to happen, with these games, with this token. And we know that was a lie.
And they want to have more decentralization. Now that, okay, that sounds like it could be a lie of omission. I'd like to know how they're backing up these reasons when in the lawsuit here, they're pretty much up front in saying, well, we had to save the company from being extorted by Wright Thurston. So how come we just hear all these happy-go-lucky things and it's actually for another reason? So that to me would fit in perfectly in a lie of omission if they truly did not tell you those root reasons or somehow got close to them. I understand that they might need to play their cards close to their chest because some of these things are proprietary or something like that. But I don't know. It's if they made such a big deal about other things that you were going to get, are we going to get those things? Did you just make it like it was possible for these new things to happen? What about the more decentralization part? They just issued Gala V2 over the top of Gala V1. That seems like a very centralized way of making a decentralized coin. What changed to make it more decentralized?
That's the thing. And when you said that, I was like, holy crap, because we had been talking about how centralized this was over the last 2 years and whether or not the token itself was centralized. And we've argued about it incessantly. And it turns out, as you pointed out, it is 100% central. Everything is 100% centralized.
Well, I thought that it was less centralized than apparently it is, because it didn't even occur to me that Gala could and would simply replace the coin with another one. And it just seems like they gave one reason for it or several reasons for it, but the court document here has a completely different reason, which we never found out about.
So that's where you and I were disagreeing on the lies, right? And you were saying, well, if there's a good excuse for the lies, they're not really lies. they didn't want, and you'll see in this document, they talk about, well, Eric didn't report any of this alleged extortion and everything else because he was afraid that by Thirsty stealing all of these coins, that Thirsty would go and sell them and rug the project. Okay? So he was too scared to go and report it or to tell anybody about it. Now, my first thought on that was that is the first thing you need to get out to the community who's putting money into your tokens, into your ecosystem, into your nodes, into your games, and everything else. If there's a risk that's that big and that scary, that should be what they refer to in here as fiduciary duty, right? That's for the company and the officers, right? Fiduciary responsibility means you've got to exercise great care in your decisions because you're making decisions that affect other people, especially financially. That's wait a minute.
Stop. Fiduciary duty has to do with when you have a security. Does that exist when you have a currency or something like that?
It also occurs in corporations, right? You have a fiduciary duty to do the best.
Well, no. Okay, wait. It occurs in corporations when you own part of that corporation. The people who own the Gala coin are not part of Gala Games. So where does the fiduciary? How does a fiduciary duty actually apply here?
I'm doesn't.
Confused. Okay, so
I wasn't asserting that it was. You cut me off before I finished.
Okay, good. Just making sure.
I was going to finish my thought originally by saying he has this fiduciary duty to the company. So I'm assuming that everybody in the company knew about this, not just the executive board holders, because there are people who work for the company who are shareholders. But this does not apply to the community as a whole. He has zero fiduciary duty towards you, the token holder, the NFT holder, or anything like that. A lot of people think they do, and this is why they pushed so hard by saying this is not an investment, because it does link it as that security thing. When I was a financial planner, right, I had this oath. It's kind of like the doctors and lawyers take, that I had to act. It was a fiduciary relationship between me and my clients, that I had to take their best interests at heart at all times, with the advice that I gave them, with how I would recommend and or invest for them. And it was my responsibility. I had to acknowledge that, and I had to understand what a big responsibility that was.
Well, let's go into the actual accusations here in Eric's document.
Okay, so I hope you all can see this. If not, follow along. Download the documents we provided and follow along. So it's brought on. This is funny. I'm sorry. Where was it? I actually started laughing so hard. Yeah. So Eric here, I almost had tears. Eric, the plaintiff, is suing Wright Thurston, True North's Investment, and Gala Games. He's suing himself. Right? So this is this is like stupid. I don't know. Maybe there's an attorney that's listening that can pop a comment up about, am I interpreting this right? Is he suing himself as well?
Well, maybe
this makes no sense.
Maybe because Wright Thurston is technically a founder of Gala Games, maybe he has to do it that way. We don't know if that's just technicality.
I don't know. But that, I was laughing almost to the point of tears. I'm like, this is how stupid this has gotten, right? So, same out of the gate from Eric's side, all right? He comes out of the gate with some bangers, right? Number one, all right? In early 2021, Thirsty and or True North stole cryptocurrency from Gala Games in the form of 8.6 mil. Oh, wait, that's billion. Holy crap. 8 billion Gala tokens. Gala is the core utility token of the ecosystem. When confronted about this theft, Thirsty falsely stated he intended to hold it in secure wallets. Not my dope. I'm just holding it for my friend, Mr. Herman. Right? So, again, just like Thirsty did, uses some very descriptive adjectives. He was able to exchange, hide, or sell approximately $130 million worth of the stolen Gala before Gala could stop him. And how did they stop him? V2. Thurston also stole licenses to operate nodes. So when you read into this and you get into the minutia further in the document about what he alleges Thirsty doing, is essentially he went out and sold a bunch of node licenses and kept the money for himself, but somehow got the nodes activated in the Gala Games ecosystem, ran the nodes, took most of the distribution for himself, and then paid out a small amount. And there's exhibits in here. He was back. Do you remember back when you were earning like $200,000 a day?
No, 12,000 a day for me.
Or 12,000 a day. Yeah, he wasn't giving out anywhere near that amount. This is the allegations. Remember, everything we're talking about here is allegations. We're not asserting facts. We're talking about what the paper is alleging here. Then they get into the character assassination portion, which is about 6 pages straight. There's no doubt, okay, and I'm not trying to minimize this by any means. When I say, 6 pages of character assassination, the dude is not Mr. Angel with a halo, all right? They cite specific cases, case numbers, and get into it. Thirsty has not had luck. That's as far as I'm going to go with that. Has not had luck in business.
What he's showing is that Thirsty has a habit of making businesses that don't deliver. Now, of course, we all know that most businesses in the United States fail, but apparently he's come up with a lot of businesses that have left people hanging. I guess that's the way to put it.
Yeah, look, so I don't know what cases are done and which aren't, so I'm not going to assassinate character here. I'm just going to read what I'm seeing and let Gala face the consequences if they make false accusations or whatever. But, it's in Wyoming where the people live. Facts. All right, here we go. These are the assertions, right? Remember, these are allegations. Now we're on the Gala side. So everything we talk about from here on out, Gala is asserting, or Eric, right? And Eric has to prove everything that he's alleging in this for him to come out on top, okay? Because this is his side of the story. Thirsty is a person who comes across as earnest and convincing. He does favors for people. He's like a mafia boss, right? In online profile pictures, he appears cuddling his wife, dedicated member of the community, churchgoer, and it has enabled him to fool many people. And there's all kinds of stuff about his former businesses. Elevate. He had like 3 different businesses he called Elevate whatever, apparently. So let's get down here. This is all stuff that he did with Elevate. All right, here, formation of the company Gala Token and Gala Ecosystem. And I want you to take note of this because we had a community member in CFA who made a really good point that I want to talk about according to what it's saying here. In early 2019, plaintiff Thurston and Eric formed Gala Games. At this time, plaintiff was not aware of Thirsty's history of litigation, failed companies, and fraud. I will call bullshit on that. I don't reasonably think that Eric, Mr. Smart Guy, Mr. Zynga, Mr. built a $12 billion gaming company who has taken Gala from a piece of paper to where it is today, is that fucking dumb that he would go into business 50-50 with somebody without looking into his background.
Well, were these cases actually? Did these actually come up?
That's why there's 6 pages of this. 2009 is this case. 2012 was another case. 2014, 2000. So absolutely. And the snarky comment was the one that made me laugh, where somebody had said, I guess Eric didn't realize Google existed until 2019. So I think that's complete bullshit right there. Okay? Eric is too smart to play stupid. So I dismiss that one, and if I was the judge, I'd be like, no, we're throwing that part out.
Well, my thought is, in my opinion, Eric, in the beginning, was using Wright Thurston's idea to get himself ahead, and then probably would want to let him go after a period of time, or part ways in some way. And he probably knew these things, but he was taking a risk, like a lot of entrepreneurs do. Now, that's not defending him. I was just saying, my opinion is, I wonder if that's what he was doing.
This is going to be your favorite part of the document, Faz.
Okay, go for it.
Because you were doing what before we got on Faz Radio?
Today?
What were you doing? What were you doing right before you got on Faz Radio?
What, taxes?
They admit it here in the document. You have proof now, Mr. Faz.
Oh.
Here we go. Are you ready? Let's talk about the Gala nodes. Owners of Gala nodes are able to mint as rewards for operating. Node owners are also able to vote regarding certain matters that affect the ecosystem. Every day there's an emission of Gala. The Gala is emitted on the then circulating supply. Blah, 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 blah. They go through this. They talk about how it used to be 75-25, and now it's 50-50. Okay?
So where are we getting into the taxes part?
Right here. Gala distributes a Gala to a Gala node owner is sent to the treasure chest as a mint allowance. The Gala does not exist on a blockchain until the owner mints the Gala from the treasure chest.
Oh, I agreed with that 2 years ago. We covered that.
But we have a lot of, you and me, and a lot of the community would argue back and forth. Does Gala exist before it's actually minted?
Yeah, we talked about this. We talked about this. It could be an IOU. It's an account. When you have an account, an accounting, however it's kept track of. Do you think that your bank accounts are kept on a blockchain? No. At one time, it's kept on a ledger, a handwritten ledger, and later it's just kept in a database, just like Gala would be in the treasure chest. That doesn't change anything. We talked about this already.
Well, but it says the Gala does not exist.
So
remember,
what?
We argued. I would argue with you. Does the Gala exist before it actually shows up in your treasure chest?
They owe you the Gala. It's like having a promissory note. They still owe it to you. So now the thing is, banks do this too. Does the money in your bank account actually exist? No, it doesn't. It's an IOU. That's how dollars work. Okay, so if you have an account which says I have 500,000 Gala in there, basically you can go in and remove it from your account, and then you have it. So that's how accounts work. Do you have control over that account? Yes. My whole thing was, do you have dominion and control over the account? Not whether Gala existed or not. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't exist on any blockchain. It does not exist on a blockchain.
It exists in a database, not a blockchain.
Yeah.
So you
all right.
It solves nothing. That was a good try.
I think it does. I really think it does.
Okay, go back to the allegation.
Right. So here's something for the community ferrets, right? Because we have a bunch of ferrets at CFA who can find anything out, and I know because I've had my ass handed to me on occasion if I fuck something up, right?
Like you just had.
So let's see how this correlates. Since at least January of 23, the company planned to upgrade from Gala V1 to Gala V2 tokens and published the rationale for the upgrade in its 2023 vision paper in January of 2023. The vision paper was publicly announced and widely distributed. As I don't think it was January. That's what I'm wondering. I thought it was later because we did the end of year show and we did the first quarter update and we got a roadmap, but I'm not sure we had the vision paper.
It doesn't matter because whether they're just trying to offer reasons for why they did it. They're just saying that they told everybody that they were going to do it.
No, I understand, but the way that this is phrased, since at least January, the company planned to upgrade. So they're trying to backdate when they decided. They're trying to cover their butts and say this was the date that they did the planning on moving to a V2. And between, I don't know when, because people asked. I remember watching people ask, well, when did you guys come up with this? And that's for the ferrets.
Okay, so anyway, get to the point here.
Okay. It was publicly announced on April 18th that the forthcoming Gala V2 implementation would happen, and it took place on May 15th. So between they're saying they publicly announced it on April 18th, but they've been planning it since at least January. Since the company's inception, Thurston and Eric have been the only two directors. Eric is saying he is the president and CEO under the company bylaws and exercises the supervision and the business and the corporation and all the officers. Thurston was involved in the company early on. He implemented a multi-level marketing structure for the sale of Gala nodes, similar to the sales structure he implemented in his prior failed businesses. The company since moved away from that model and no longer has a multi-level marketing structure. So there were several people who came out and said, that's a really good thing. We don't want the MLM funny business going on. What do you think? Those early node referrals?
We all talked about it at the time. That was a bad idea. No, we did not want the MLM structure. Now, what's funny is everybody who's making a lot of money with it, like online, on-chain gaming, loved it because if you're an influencer, you can get a lot of money that way. So some people were claiming, once they moved away from the MLM scheme, oh my God, you're totally destroying me. Yeah, because you're taking advantage of an MLM scheme. So I think that was a good move. I'm glad that they went out and admitted it. Now, I do remember at the time, Eric Schiermeyer asking people if they wanted to do this MLM scheme or not, and people deciding that they didn't want it. And then he actually went through the whole process in the Discord asking people about this. So this shouldn't be like some sort of big surprise. This in fact, this seems like background for stuff he's going to say later. So keep reading.
Yeah. Yes. So here's another interesting fact for the ferrets. Please do your research. You guys are fantastic, way better than me. This is interesting because I'd love to know when Eric turned on his nodes too. It says, Thurston and Eric agreed not to operate the 7,000 nodes they gave to each other, as this concentration of nodes and two founders was contrary to the company's foundational goal of decentralization. Thousands of nodes operated by thousands of node owners, providing computational resources and making decisions about the ecosystem. Okay. This is where he starts saying that Thurston decided not to be involved. Here's the proof he'll need to provide to show that Thurston walked away. Apart from directing the preparation of the annual tax returns, Thurston had no legitimate involvement with the company for years by his own choice. Thurston has not been involved in day-to-day operations for the company. In fact, Thurston's been an absentee director. One of our community members pointed out that Eric was on stage at Gala V1
with this absentee director.
giving props for how much Thurston has contributed to the success of Gala. So this already gets called into question because that was obviously not years, right? In recent years, Thurston was virtually unreachable for many months at a time, failing to respond to communications regarding corporate issues. Just like Thirsty made the allegations, and I said there, Eric will have to provide proof that he tried to contact him, how he tried to contact him, as well as all the records and proof that goes along with that. Okay. Here's where the theft comes in. In the early days of the company kept its Gala tokens from sales and daily distributions in a single wallet that the company used to engage in day-to-day business. The company accumulated billions of Gala in this wallet, which caused concern it could be viewed as a target for hackers. Well, no shit, right? On September 12th, 2020, that was awful late, by the way, the company moved $19 billion of the company's Gala from the single company wallet into many company wallets. They give a number down below. You're going to love this. Sole purpose of moving the company Gala in these wallets was to keep the company's assets more secure, analogous to moving funds from a checking account to multiple savings accounts. Okay? You're going to love this too. When the company moved Gala into these numerous wallets, Eric and Thirsty were given the private keys to the company wallets. They just shared the keys between the two of them. What the hell, right?
Well, they are. Okay, wait a minute. They are the owners of the company. I think you're missing that part. Okay,
no,
that's not something that's like, oh my God, the hubris.
It is.
I call it security issues. Really,
it's not. Either person could do anything without the other's permission. They should have had a multi-sig at a minimum.
I do agree with that. Yes, they should have.
Because if you and I put 1,000 Bitcoin into a single wallet and shared the keys between the two of us, one person can walk away with all of it. So was that a fiduciary responsibility that was overlooked by Eric, perhaps? Probably. Okay. So if I gave my keys to anybody in the CFA Discord and my tokens go missing, whose fault is it? It's mine, right?
Well,
so it should be.
Sounds like a lot of the other exchanges. You know how there's exchanges out there. I'm trying to think. There's one in Canada where the guy died and he was the only one with the keys. Yes, John T says a third-party internal company audit should get to the bottom of this hot mess. Yeah, they should. I like the idea of if you're going to have billions of dollars in any company, there should be an audit, some sort of audit.
I doubt we'll see that though. They're not going to release that publicly. They're going to make that confidential data for the court only, and there's no way we're going to be able to see it though.
I have a feeling that if they're doing Mickey Mouse stuff like how they're sharing the keys, that there's a whole bunch of other messy shit inside that company in Gala Games.
You think that was going to be my?
Well, I think they grew too fast. And the reason that they gave, I think they probably had these keys given, to both Wright and Eric in the very beginning before Gala was worth anything, and then became worth a lot. And of course, one of them could go in and do that. That's just crazy.
So, now again, timing is important here because you got to look at these timelines because this is important for forming opinions as well. The company wallets, where all this 19 billion Gala was put to, they sat untouched between September 20 and February of 21. Then the company discovered that one of the company's savings wallets was empty. Upon examination,
is it because some of the Gala Games fans noted it? Because whenever that happens, that's when you say Bitbender lies or whatever, and that Bitbender always explains it away with something.
So you see the smirk on my face. They just bumped into it? Is that what it is? Nobody was even monitoring these things? 19 billion Gala tokens, and there's no oversight whatsoever to these things?
No, wait a minute.
Bump into
wait a minute. Sounds like there's some oversights, but it sounds like they have a lot of wallets to watch. And probably the older the wallet is, the less likely it's going to be watched.
So, in total, Gala Games learned that 8.6 billion of the company's Gala tokens were missing, forever known as the stolen Gala. I'll bet you those P-Gala people are kind of smirking a little bit right now, right? It initially appeared that the company's savings wallets had been hacked by an outside threat actor. But it was not a hacker who stole the Gala. It was Thirsty and/or his company. That's what they're alleging. Specifically, on February 3rd, 2021, in a series of 43 rapid transactions, Thirsty transferred the stolen Gala from 43 of the company's savings wallets, 43 wallets, into 43 separate wallets that were controlled by Thirsty. Gala Games had no access to the Thurston wallets in which the stolen Gala was transferred. They had 43 wallets full of Gala. That blew my mind. Because we didn't log 43 wallets.
So wait, is my Gala secure when it's on the website in the treasure chest? Inquiring minds want to know.
That isn't in this lawsuit, unfortunately.
The lawsuit is letting us know how secure it is. That was a very obvious question there.
So Eric says he demanded that Thirsty give the money back, but Thirsty refused. Remember, the guy who never answers anything did answer this time and refused. Not said, I don't know what you're talking about, didn't say anything. They're asserting that he just flat out said, I'm not giving them back.
Oh, wait a minute! You sound a little bit biased here. The way that you're getting on.
No, because this word refused. That's why I'm sticking on that.
Refused could have been when he finally did get a hold of him months later. Come on.
I don't know.
I hear a lot of bias here, sir.
There's no bias because there's points that I think Eric is correct with, and I think there's points that Thirsty is correct
and therefore,
with.
Because you think both those points, you are unbiased. I think it would depend on how you narrate further.
I think further up in this document where they said he was unable to be communicated with for years, and they're pushing hard on that. But suddenly, when Eric says, "I want the money back," he responds and says, "No, I'm not buying that either." The stolen Gala represented 20% of the total Gala minted. So 8.6 billion is 20%. Come on, math whizzes. How much was in circulation at that time? If Thurston sold all the Gala, or dumped it into the market, as they like to say, the Gala Games ecosystem would have collapsed, as the total Gala in circulation would more than have doubled. So in February of 21, how did the token respond? Because the pump was in the end. Was it the end of 21 or was it the end of 20 when it hit 80 cents?
Oh, it was the beginning of 21.
Huh. Interesting timing there too. We'd have to dig into that.
I don't know.
And here's a very big assertion. Thirsty effectively held the company hostage. Blowing the whistle, it sounds like a 1940s gangster movie, right? Blowing the whistle on that bum, right?
Again, I hear a lot of bias on your side here.
No, this isn't bias. I'm not trying to say this is true. What I'm saying is that the language, they have some kind of attorney that uses like 1940s language, and this is cracking me up. His or her choice of words. Blowing the whistle on Thurston would have caused him to liquidate.
What I am hearing is a narrative, a specific personality type of narrative going on here that like he basically stole things. It was personal. He was holding it hostage. Do they have a reason why he was holding the company hostage? Did they say one?
They speculate a little bit as we get further down.
Just to enrich himself?
Hang on, we'll get there. I'm moving as fast as I can so I can give you enough context so you can make intelligent, opinionated comments once we get through this. Okay, so the company tracked Thirsty's wallets to see if the stolen Gala was moved from those wallets. Thurston's statements indicated that he intended to keep the company's Gala secure were false. So he refused to give it back, but said he was keeping them safe. It was what Thursty had told Eric when this inquiry happened. Okay.
So he's keeping it safe, but eventually he divided it up into a whole bunch of anonymous wallets.
Yes. Okay. And then the assertions come in where the obfuscation, I'm getting better with that word, the obfuscation is where Eric is asserting he purposely tried to send this all over the place, incurring gas fees and all this other stuff. And that's where we're getting into now, which is what I was going to next. Each of the transfers of the stolen Gala is visible on the blockchain up to a point. When the digital asset is transferred to a centralized exchange, it's no longer visible on a blockchain explorer. So the records of transactions are not publicly available, and in the absence of a court process requiring disclosure. So I can see them wanting to get court records to see what actually happened when it got to Coinbase. Nearly all the stolen Gala ultimately ended up at a centralized exchange. The total value of the stolen Gala at the time was $130 million. Where have we seen that number before?
Where have we seen it?
Back when we were talking about in the documents about how much was taken away from the people here. Plaintiff sent Eric sent numerous messages to Thursty asking him, why are you moving the Gala tokens, and demands that he stop selling the stolen Gala. So Thursty first responded he was selling some Gala tokens in order to purchase ammunition for firearms. Then he stopped responding. So here is the Gala version of why they didn't say anything and why, depending on your version and definition of what a lie is, this is where it all comes together. Thurston failed to respond, ignored all demands to return the stolen Gala, and kept selling the stolen Gala. Unable to secure the stolen Gala from Thurston and unable to make public disclosures regarding the stolen Gala without fear of initiating a panic, the company was forced to seek an engineering solution to the problem at hand.
Wait a minute. I didn't want to create a panic. Why?
Saying we lost $19 million.
So wait, is Gala Games worried about how people might value the token if a panic happens?
The company, or to what they might think of the company if they find out that one of the co-founders / owners is stealing and or selling 9 billion Gala tokens.
Okay. Well, no, I'm wondering, is this panic worried about token price?
Maybe. I don't know. It doesn't say. It doesn't say what their intention behind that statement
that's just my thought, is why would you care if there's a panic? If he sells the tokens are just used in the games, right? So, I mean, I would think that would be price related.
So it could be, or causing a panic among the customers over at the Gala, in the Gala ecosystem, right? Saying, oh my God, they're rugging us. kind of like they mentioned above, and wanting people to lose faith in Gala, causing the company harm, all that legal speak that they use, right? So the engineering solution that they came up with was essentially creating Gala V2. Since Thirsty held all the Gala V1 tokens and was doing whatever with them, right, selling them is their assertion, if they were to change the token to a different version and convert everybody over to a new token, those V1 tokens that Thirsty was selling, according to them, would be worthless. He wouldn't be able to sell them anymore, because they would whitelist or blacklist those conversions from V1 to V2.
Like, that's the same way that Ethereum dealt with a hacker, I believe, where somebody hacked the Ethereum security, and they stole like $40 million or something like that. And so the Ethereum blockchain a number of years ago did a fork. They forked away, and that's how Ethereum Classic was created.
Yes, I remember reading about that. So it talks about the process. When V2 was issued, the tokens were not deposited into Thurston's wallets, and he was left with obsolete V1 tokens in those wallets. After that, Thirsty was no longer able to sell the stolen Gala from the Thurston wallets. So that little observation here, that may be why Thirsty turned on his nodes and started accumulating Gala and then selling the Gala he was getting from his nodes. By taking this action, the company was able to mitigate some of the damage caused by Thirsty and prevent him from further enriching himself by liquidating stolen Gala. At that time, Thirsty had already moved approximately half of the 8.6 billion stolen tokens, valued at $130 million at the time. Thirsty's story regarding these tokens has been inconsistent. He initially claimed he had moved the stolen Gala from the company's savings wallets to keep the assets secure for the company. Other times, he pretended not to know anything about it. It appears Thirsty's new story is that Gala he stole from the company treasury actually belonged to him or True North. Now, this is interesting, because if they're 50-50 partners and 19 billion Gala were in there, was in that initial account that we talked about from above, and he took half of them, roughly 8.6 billion, he might have thought, hey, half of those are mine. This is my 8.6 billion. He had the keys to all of those accounts. He could have taken it all.
Yeah, but the problem I'm having with that is it sounds. Let's just say that Eric's the CEO and Thurston's not, right? He's like president of blockchain or something like that. So basically, one of these two partners has decided on their own to liquidate all this Gala and keep it. Now, there was something said in Thurston's thing about how the board had decided that they were going to liquidate Gala assets and stuff. Okay, wouldn't that go to the company? Why would that turn around and all go back to Thurston? So if he did have some sort of claim to say, well, this is mine, does that mean he's firing himself from the company? He's like, I'm just taking it and I'm liquidating myself from the company at this point.
Right. So I'm just building on the speculation here.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to find a good faith reason why he might have just taken all that Gala.
Well, but he only took roughly half, which he may have thought was his half that he was going to keep safe himself. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm saying
I know
there's nothing that Eric could have done to stop him from taking all 19 million.
So what? So why? Wow, he's a fine, upstanding guy because he believed the wrong thing. My thought is, okay, if he's talking about Eric did some things without board approval, sounds like he did the same thing. He went and just grabbed this stuff and just told everybody, hey, I'm going to watch this stuff. and then later sold it all. So,
that's all I'm alluding to here. I'm not saying
I'm just trying to keep things honest here about why he might have stolen it. Why he might have stolen it. If he thinks that was his, how come he didn't work with the company on that? I mean, did he really think that half of the Gala tokens was Eric's alone and the other half was his alone? That's quite a huge amount of compensation. So
I don't know.
Again, a board would have to be in the middle of this to approve all this stuff. This sounds really fishy.
Yes.
So it sounds really fishy, and I'm struggling to find a reason where he could, even if he thought that the half was his, that he could do it in such an arbitrary way and be in the right. That's all I'm saying.
So Eric is saying, finally, if the stolen galley, I keep calling it galley, actually belonged to Thurston, he would have not secretly and rapidly moved it from the wallets into his own, from the company wallets into his own. Thurston's claim that the company assets actually belonged to him rather than the company's echoes the same claim he made back in previous litigation when he was sued for his other stuff for that Block United mess that happened in the past. Now, I'm not going to spend a ton of time here. I'll hit the high points where it was the nodes, or what they called smart boxes back then. Nodes used to be called smart boxes. Apparently.
I worked very hard trying to figure out how that green and smart shit worked, and it's all I could tell was that it was just error. Okay, so that's the thing that kind of gets me about that is I never found the answers. I attended the meetings. The meetings didn't make sense to me. I mean, so I can see why they might have thought something's going on here. That's all.
In or around November 21, another important date for our ferrets. In or around November of 21, plaintiff noted that the Gala distribution report showed a new licensee named Jason Anderson with 672 operational Gala nodes earning Gala tokens. So they are doxing, obviously, the people who get nodes. They know who every node owner is. They previously said they didn't, but they do. They know who owns all the licenses because they're saying that this is stuff that Thirsty did that they didn't know about. So obviously they can easily find out who owns every node. At the time,
so much for KYC.
Yeah, you don't need KYC. It's already KY. Well, deeper side of KYC.
It's KY. They KY. There's a KY in there.
Know who you is. At the time, Anderson had more active Gala nodes than anyone else on the distribution report. Upon examining the records for this licensee, the company discovered there were no sales information in the system for the licenses which Anderson was operating. So they also know how much you've spent in the system. They track you all the way through using that wonderful blockchain technology down to how much money you spend on their platform.
So the important thing about all these documents is actually what it reveals, what Gala knows about your accounts and what they know about things that are supposedly decentralized. And that's an important thing to mention. That's all.
The company found, now this is where I was saying it gets really interesting. The company found a false entry had been made in the system in which Anderson's node licenses were activated without anyone having paid for them. So this is a giant can of worms. How did Thirsty activate these nodes without Gala's consent?
If he was part of Gala Games and he had things like the keys and stuff like that, he could go and put the entries in the databases himself. So it sounds like he would have the ability to do that.
It doesn't sound like an absentee owner to me.
What? Okay, you're taking you're taking two things out of context.
No, wait. No, I'm not taking them out of context.
An absentee owner means he's not participating in the company. If he's going and just raiding resources, that says nothing about whether he's an absentee owner or not. Come on.
So wait.
You're really trying to put a spin on this.
I'm not. Because
yeah, you are. You already have.
I'm not. Well, no, I'm not.
Looks like it to me.
Because how does he get those nodes activated without having insider information or access somehow. That's what I'm trying to say. How does that happen? And Gala above,
he has access because he works for the
this.
company. He has access because he's president of blockchain, and he can actually ask people to do it if he doesn't do it his own damn self. So he has the ability to do this. Why are you acting like this is crazy and strange? He can be an absentee director and just come in and just take shit, or put things in databases.
So
I don't get.
My ultimate point here, okay, my ultimate point is there was a lot of back and forth, and I don't want to say arguments, but I want to say discussions regarding how much of the node ecosystem that Gala runs is software provided by Thurston. Okay. So Gala has insisted up, down, backwards, and forwards. Yes, the original technology was the Thurston brainchild. However, we took care of that. We wiped all that out. We put our own stuff on there.
They modified it out of existence.
Right.
Yeah.
So this could be alluding that may not be the case, because obviously Thurston knew how to navigate that system pretty well.
Oh, wait a minute. Again, I'm going to keep hammering on this. If Thurston is still part of the company and still has access to see things and read things and do things, he can easily take advantage of whatever that they have modified. What am I not getting here? You're acting like he shouldn't know, but he's still part of the company. He's in charge. He's in a position where he'd have the access to do these things.
Not well, but not then. They had asserted he hasn't been part of the daily operations or anything like that for a very long time.
Part of the daily operations is different than taking things from the company. It's like, I don't drive your car all the time, but I have a key, and so I come to your car once a month and take shit out of the trunk. Just because I don't drive it all the time doesn't mean I can't get into the trunk. Come on.
Okay.
Dude had the ability to do things no matter what they said he was. In fact, that's perfect. He never comes into the office, so people won't even think, who is this guy?
There isn't an office. They all work remotely.
Okay, good enough. Okay, so there's not even any way to detect him. Well, let's hope.
Okay.
Hopefully that they have some security protocols here.
The company disabled the stolen node licenses because it appeared the company had been hacked by an outside threat actor. So, back in Thirsty's documents, he talks about having his nodes shut down several times. In fact, it was not an outside hacker. It was Thurston who directed that false entry to be made. The Gala ultimately learned there was a
directed
lawsuit.
Sounds like he asked an employee to do it, basically, and because he had the ability to ask an employee to do that, that's how he directed it to happen. So,
right. The company ultimately learned there was a lawsuit between Thirsty and another guy's company, the guy that they found having these nodes, 673 nodes. And it gets complicated, so I'll summarize it very quickly. It was kind of a tit for tat. Here, you're gonna give me the money for these nodes. I'm gonna run these nodes for you, and he was exchanging those nodes for other mining software, apparently, for other things, because in the exhibits it talks about delivering the products back and forth. Blocks alleges it promised the smart boxes. They were never delivered. So the allegations here are Thirsty's running another scam where he's selling the products like the green boxes but never delivering on them. Okay? This goes on like frickin' forever.
So sounds like Eric has a lot more counter accusations then.
He does. His document is like twice as long, right? Very, very... Eric's documents are a lot more detailed, where Thirsty's are very generic and general with broad claims, whereas Eric's is very pointed and very specific. So that's both good and bad, because Eric has more specificity that he has to prove rather than proving general statements are way easier to prove than, well, it depends.
No, that's bullshit. No, general statements are not easier to prove.
In a sense,
a specific accusation requires a specific bit of proof. Now, to be fair, I actually thought the opposite of you. I thought that Wright was being a lot more specific because he was pointing at rules that had been broken, while Eric was doing some sort of character assassination.
Well, there was some of that there, yeah. And he goes back into the green thing. This was another pissing contest that Thirsty had with his green people, and it involved the Gala nodes. So here's where it gets sticky with the shitty way they set up this company to begin with. Two supposedly highly intelligent individuals that set up this company went into business without knowing each other or their past, but they set up this company so terribly that we get into the minutia of that.
I think they set it up terribly because the company, when it started, wasn't expecting to take off that quickly. They were ahead of themselves.
Maybe.
That's my 2 cents. And they've said it many times that they're a bit ahead of themselves. The question is, I think by this point, by 2021, they've had a couple of years to kind of adapt and a fair amount of money to be able to catch up with certain security things. However, if you started with an irresponsible thing like Wright and Eric are the only ones that hold the keys, it doesn't matter how much money you spend, the controlling people aren't going to give up their power.
I'm going to bring up something in a little bit. My DMs were going bonkers, so I'll bring up something that's a really good point in a few minutes when we get to our commentary portion of this. But we'll finish this up. We're almost done, I promise. So, under the company's bylaws, action cannot be taken by the board of directors without the affirmative vote of Thurston as one of the two directors of the company. So
interesting. Thurston says in his complaint that Eric was doing things without express permission of the board of directors. So
right. So this is where they get into suing the company itself and suing itself, because of course if Eric brings on motion to kick out Thurston has to agree to be kicked out. He's not going to do that. I'm sorry. This is just comical.
Hey, Jay Soto, you know what to do here. Turn that into a Twitter or a TikTok or something. That was gold there, Mr. Titan.
You think he's going to go, oh, you're calling me a thief and a liar? Yeah, okay, kick me out. I deserve it. All right, sorry, we'll move on. Oh. So on June 6, 2023, Eric, as shareholder, served a demand on the company to take action against Thirsty and called for a vote. Here we go again. Called for a vote of the company's board of directors consisting of the plaintiff and Thirsty. Come help me kick you out, or else. Oh, sorry. On June 7th, plaintiff and Thurston, through counsel, agreed to postpone the June 8th meeting until June 15th. Postponed 5-6 times, all the way through July 18th. And they could record their votes. On August 3rd, Thurston, through counsel, sent a written proposal confirming that Thurston voted against calling for the shareholder vote. Nope.
I'm just letting you go.
I know, I'm sorry. This is fucking, it's like the Keystone Cops here. Okay. Any demand that Thurston vote to take action against himself was futile. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. This is just so funny.
So
Okay.
wait. Are they
Keep the
complaining?
composure.
Wait, are they complaining that they couldn't take action because? Well, I'm sorry, we couldn't vote.
They're
Well,
they're complaining because Thurston refused to vote against himself, but
okay.
they
So
tried to get him to.
why is that in the court document?
I don't. Maybe because they
A
wanted to make us
judge,
all laugh. I don't know.
he didn't want to do this. Okay, well maybe they're
Uh,
building to a point here. So read the rest. Maybe they're saying
yeah. Oh boy. Okay. So here we go back into breach of fiduciary duties again. Eric again restates, realleges that as director, Thurston owes the fiduciary duty of care, good faith, loyalty, and candor to the company, and that Thurston breached those duties by his actions recounted herein. So here's the summary of all the stuff that Eric is alleging. Misusing access to company savings wallets in order to transfer 8 billion Gala tokens to Thurston wallets, making false statements to the company and Eric regarding his intent to keep it as a secure custodian, refusing to return it, selling or exchanging billions of Gala tokens, and keeping the proceeds to enrich himself directly or indirectly. Using his position and control to improperly sell Gala licenses to a third party without company authorization, failing and refusing to return proceeds of said sold licenses,
which should probably go to the company instead.
Yeah, it should. I will not argue that. Concealing from the company the fact that he sold Gala licenses and kept the proceeds for himself.
Okay, then that's theft right there. Okay.
Here's the big one too, and I agreed with Eric 100% on this when he went batshit when it was found out he was using the Gala name to promote this green bullshit. But he also alleges in here he was misusing his position of control to promote green venture using the Gala reputation, brand, and goodwill. Okay, that was horseshit, and we got the video. We actually sent a couple of those videos over to Brink when we bumped into him.
I recall people getting the actual documents that Wright was giving out.
Yeah.
In those documents, they had the Gala logo, and so at the time it was just Eric demanded that he remove the logo from his.
Well, there was also I sent. Well, maybe you weren't with me at the time, but I sent a video over to Brink of a YouTube that Wright had done, where he was doing a pitch, and he had in there. I'm the co-founder of Gala Games as well as the green thing or whatever, and that wasn't right because I was on a couple of those green things with you as well, and yeah, it was sketchy from the get.
We went okay. Let's clarify this. So green, this whole green scam that was going on, I was interested in it. I wanted to see how it worked. I figured there was more like another node system out there like Gala Games. And so I went to Wright's green site and went to their little Zoom meetings and stuff like that. And it was always just a bunch of talk. They never. I tried really hard to figure out what the fuck green was. Apparently, it was some sort of power token. Like if you generated power, you could generate a token from it. But I couldn't. It was very vague, and they never went anywhere with it. These meetings that they had, these Zoom meetings, had like a single developer, and not even a developer. We have developers working on this. We've gotten the website a little bit better looking. We've updated a combo box on the website. I mean, it was really just lame. And so because it went nowhere, I was like, I'm not going to buy any of this stuff because it's a scam. And what Eric Schiermeyer wound up doing later is he confirmed a lot of those things when he was getting all pissed off at Green. It was amazing to find that Gala Games had actually come from Green, from a partnership with Wright Thurston and Green. It's almost like Gala Games hired all the developers and Green had none. well, how was Wright Thurston expecting to get anything made if he was getting a lot of fucking money from Gala Games? I mean, he wasn't spending it on his company, so of course his company was going to fail. That says to me that the company was almost made in bad faith. So I see stuff on both sides here where Eric seems a little fishy, but Wright's got a fair amount of fishiness himself going on here. That's all.
Absolutely. It goes both ways. Absolutely. So Eric also claims fraud and lists out why he's doing the fraud. So here's another statement that Eric reiterates. In reliance on Thursty's insistence that he intended to act as a secure custodian, the company did not contact appropriate authorities to report the theft of Gala, and the plaintiff refrained from making demand of the company to file an action against Thurston.
Well, didn't they say that he was extorted or something by?
Yeah.
Well, that's why you wouldn't report something like that.
And he was afraid of the backlash. So basically, Eric was he was afraid, I guess.
Well, it sounds like Wright Thurston had Eric by the balls.
It could be, yeah.
So the question is why? That's what I want to know is why did Wright Thurston go through all these measures to extort Eric Schiermeyer and all because he just felt that he was owed something? It's almost like they should have gone to a court at that point, but instead they had they both went a lot further. So I see, again, it's back to there's fishiness going on both sides. Why were they trying to solve this when apparently they're both doing some shady shit?
Well, and why they didn't think ahead. They obviously didn't go to an attorney, or at least a very good attorney, when they got the company made.
You think they're rich that they have their attorneys.
Well, the attorney was terrible if they didn't have an exit provision, right? Whether it was voluntary exit or whether it was kicking somebody out, because it's obvious they had no clause in any of the bylaws on how to get somebody out of there on their own, voluntarily or involuntarily. So that is a big cause of this problem, because if they'd have had that, and Eric would have noticed that 8.6 billion tokens were gone, at that point, with the breach or the theft or whatever, he could have went, you know what, Thirsty, keep the tokens, but you're now out. And could have gotten rid of them right then and there. Why didn't he do that? And then go back to the community and say, listen, we had a problem. Here's what happened. Thirsty, well, you didn't have to name Thirsty, but just so we're clear as I'm explaining my theory here. Thirsty stole 8.6 billion tokens, which was half of our supply that we had put away. We've cut him off completely. He's gone. He's no longer a part of Gala. We're going to have to recover as a community like this. That is not tough to do. It would suck, but it's not tough to do.
Oh, not tough to do. Okay.
And he takes his lumps. He takes accountability. He takes responsibility. He did the responsible thing by kicking him out at that point completely. And it's over. It's done. But here we are today with the two of them still 50-50 owners of this thing. And now we're, as a community, we're dragged into this mess. Because what is this going to do to Gala Games? What is this going to do to the token? What is this going to do to the goodwill? What is this going to do? Regardless if it's Thirsty or Eric or this epic battle, all it's going to do is cause a shitstorm for everybody associated with Gala today and in the future. You don't think this thing's going to hit like CoinDesk? Are you kidding me? This is going to hit CoinDesk, and everybody out there they're going to be the laughing stock of crypto gaming instead of an industry.
That's going a bit
behemoth.
far. No,
I think that's going to happen.
You're going a bit far. No, I think what you have is rich people fighting other rich people, which happens in any company frankly, that gets really, really good. It gets a lot of money. They're fighting over the money, dude. Stop acting like this is some sort of groundbreaking thing where everybody's going to like run away screaming. No, they're not. This is typical, dude.
No, I'm not saying everybody's going to run away screaming. I'm saying new people are going to look at this and go, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
No, they're not. In fact, if I came in at this point, I'd be like, wow, there's a lot of drama going on right now. This is causing a lot of attention to the token. I think I want to buy this token because the token's going to keep going down, and eventually they're going to figure it out, and it's going to go back up again. You buy what's that? You buy the rumor, sell the news. You buy it right now, and then you sell it later.
I don't know. I see
when things all recover.
As opposite. I know myself. If I walked into if somebody told me about this cool company they'd been in for a while and wanted to bring me in, and I see shit like this, no way I'm touching that. No way. That's just me, though. Maybe you're the opposite. You would do it, you're saying. So we cancel each other's votes, just like those 7,000 nodes. Okay, so that is the end of the stuff. So basically, the Gala wants all their money back, plus a little bit for pain and suffering, plus their attorney's fees, and want Wright kicked out. And Wright wants, I think we calculated it's somewhere between $600 million and $800 million.
That's a lot of money.
And wants Eric kicked out. That is the
what does Eric
goal
want
here?
What does Eric want?
He wants the money that was stolen back, a little bit extra, just to stick it to him. And he wants Thirsty to be forced out.
So they both want to fire. That's how they're firing the other person.
Right.
So
exactly.
Again, so I think that they've been collecting dirt on each other for quite a while. This stuff wasn't prepared overnight. And this is what rich people do when they get a company that starts going through the roof. Is people start clawing after the money. Mm-hmm. So, yes, Jay Soto here. Let's put that one up on the board here. Yes, he agrees. This is an entry point for smart people. If you get the idea that this is my 2 cents. If you get the idea that eventually that this is going to blow over, smart time to get in. If you think that this is doom and gloom and it's the end of the game, well then, yeah, you're screwed if you buy right now. Personally, the way that, and I said this on CFA, what I see is what has Thurston created and what has Eric created. Now, I think they both seem to be slimy in some way, but Eric has created a company with a number of games in development: Spider Tanks, Townstar, Superior, Grit, Meow Match, Mirandus is coming. Let's see, Walking Dead. What's the other one? Echoes of Empire, and what was the most recent one? That Champions Arena. You can debate whether these games are good or not, but the point is he's produced games. What has Thurston created with this company? Has Thurston directed these games to be built? Has Thurston made games on his own, or it seems like all that Thurston has is a bunch of failed companies and nodes, a node system that a node technology, which honestly it's very well positioning to own an underlying technology that is used by this. I think that's a good thing. But did he make it or did he buy it? So I see when I like to say, watch what people do, not what they say. When I see Eric making all these things and just asking for the money that was stolen back, and apparently then some as a punishment, he's not stealing something from the other person. Now, yes, I hear through the grapevine that there's all sorts of shenanigans going on there, but not in these court documents. We're not saying that he's stealing from Wright Thurston, and unless Wright Thurston believes that he should have been paid more. Again, I can't get past the fact that Thurston has gone and just decided to take half the company's Gala through extraordinary measures and then decried that Eric Schiermeyer has done things through extraordinary measures. It's like you both suck.
So 2 things. First, if you remember when we skipped over like 10 pages where it went over Wright's history, because it was just all the silliness that Wright had done in Eric's. One of those, they pointed out, Gala was smart enough to point out in there, that he had withheld funds that he thought was his from another company before, and even ignored a judge's order to return those funds. So
Thurston?
Yeah.
Thurston?
So
Okay.
he has a history of just kind of taking what's his and then holding it even after a judge tells him to.
It's called making it legal. He will make it legal. What you basically do is you do when you're a millionaire, you do whatever you want to do, and then your lawyers will fight the case long enough to bankrupt the other person, or long enough for it just to be a waste of the other person's time if they're another millionaire. And that's a valid way that people make money. It sucks and it's shitty, but it's you can do that. That sounds akin to like what do you call that? Patent trolling, where you can just buy patents and then troll them. It sounds a lot like that. So I see that Thurston doing those kind of things, and then I see Eric Schiermeyer building a game company that people can argue about. People can say, yeah, he didn't do this right, he didn't do that right. Great, he actually has something that people can argue about. That's my 2 cents. I don't see anything else that Wright Thurston has done, and maybe that's what we should see. I'd like to see that more from Wright Thurston.
So I do want to mention this. My DMs were going nuts, and there is an incredible amount of very highly skilled web ferrets that we associate with. And I'm not going to name names, so if you're listening, don't panic. But a screenshot as well as context was sent to me from a DM conversation I had with one of these wonderful ferrets that him and I had bumped into all of these transfers that we had just talked about in this document. And it's mind-boggling because we saw these transactions, we knew whose wallets they were, and now we find out the back end, at least allegations of where this came from. So it's kind of mind-boggling. All this stuff comes back. So I will definitely be going back in the ferret channels and seeing if there's any other things that we had bumped into that could give us an indication of how, when, and why these things transpired.
So yeah, ultimately, we're just going to have to see how this susses out. They both got some stuff to work out. I have a hard time believing that if somehow Eric Schiermeyer were to go away, that somehow Wright Thurston would be a better person for Gala Games. I'd want to see his credibility for developing games before I think differently. I'm not trying to poop on the guy. I'm just trying to say what have I seen. He's apparently an absentee director. What has he done? Has he worked with people in the back end, the backside?
Maybe. Again, you're doing what you accused me of doing before, which is giving a little bit too much bias there. We don't know if he was absentee or not, because even later in that document, Eric admits that he was communicating with Thurston. So
communicating with Thurston is different.
Know.
Wait a minute. Communicating with Thurston is different than being an absentee director. To me, an absentee director is somebody that does not engage with the company. If you're saying that if you're saying that he sends text messages to he's a good director if he sends text messages to Eric Schiermeyer, you're kind of full of it. There's more than that needs to happen. Is he attending the meetings? Is he directing?
Is he notified of the meetings?
Is he? Well, that's a good question. Is he directing product development? Is he actually checking in on the teams? Is he doing those things? So that I'm just throwing that out. If you call somebody an absentee director, you're gonna have proof that they don't do all these things. As far as not being notified, if I was another director of the company, that's the first thing I would ask is why wasn't I notified? And then I go ask other people. So whatever the case is, yes, I certainly can see some holes in one of their arguments, and I see that you see holes in the other person's arguments.
Well, it's going to be I'm not saying one person or another, but what I'm saying is that they're claiming exactly the opposite of each other. So somebody's going to have proof.
Well, Eric has
one
more
of the
claims.
two of them.
Eric has more claims
have proof.
Thurston. Eric has more claims than Thurston. That's I think what we figured out.
So here, and I'm gonna do Faz a favor so that I don't raise his blood pressure, and I don't get called names for weeks. So I'm gonna
just don't talk about the fake moon landing, and you won't raise my blood pressure.
I am gonna rephrase how I would normally say this to appease you, just for you today, Faz.
Mm-hmm.
What does need to be worked on immediately is the transparency when things like this happen, because it has been shown by these documents that there has been misinformation or information massaged. I won't use the L word, but it was definitely not what we were told. And I believe that the people who communicated those statements absolutely knew it was misinformation.
I don't know enough
I
about
think that has to stop, and that has to stop immediately.
I think, and I've always said this, that the reason for Gala Games' bad communication is that they're messy. They do their jobs messy. They're slapdash, and maybe they aren't, but they're not showing it through the communication. Maybe they just want to go dark. I don't know, but when some things get announced really quickly, like this Gala V2 thing, that's fucked up, man. I mean, I didn't know about, by the time I heard about it, it was just about ready to happen. So if you're not actively engaged with Gala Games, there's all sorts of actions that they can take that you'd never know about. And the communication, to me, needs to be better. There's so many things we've gone over the last few years with Gala Games that they need better communication with. And I don't think they know how to do that yet. They haven't found that place.
Whether you call it a lie or misinformation, it is one of those things. Let me show you something. Let me pull this up. Because in here, and I think we missed it. In here is the reason that it wasn't, that the V2 token wasn't accepted by Coinbase. Okay?
Yeah, they got wind of what was going on between those two people.
They did, and they didn't want any part of it. What was the community told over and over again? Do you remember? Because I have the screenshots.
Wasn't it something along the lines of, we have no idea why Coinbase wouldn't do this?
Yeah. And it's up to Coinbase, and, we have nothing to do with this. Bullshit, you didn't have anything to do with it. You were the cause of it.
Okay, wait a minute. From what? No, not exactly. I think when they're saying we have nothing to do with this, means we haven't talked to Coinbase. We haven't arranged anything. They're going to make whatever decisions they're going to make. I mean, those are they're sticking around the edges of that argument there, which is Coinbase finds what they're doing a bit fishy. So that's not a lie, in my opinion. They're not lying about what Coinbase would do. They're doing what every other company would do, and just nipping around at the edges. Anyway, sounds like we should be finishing this up here.
Well, yeah. So
this is getting late.
In a nutshell, here, I'll put forward my final thoughts. What do they call that at the end of court cases?
Summary? Final judgment?
No, they call it something. My closing arguments.
Okay.
There we go. My closing arguments. And I do want to extend everybody on both sides of this what I profess, because I do, as you guys know, I accept accountability for myself. I'm not going to point the finger at one or the other, because I think they're both not very good people. I think they're both not forthcoming and straightforward with people. I think they're both focused on the money and not the games and the community. Because I think the word community is mentioned 4 times in like all these documents combined.
Are you going to get to your final argument here?
Yes. So I am not gonna pass judgment at this point. I think that some of the things that Eric says are true. I think some of the things that Thirsty says are true. And I want to wait. I'm going to pull a Faz, and I want to wait to see the evidence and what comes out of this before I pass judgment. My final thought is that I do think that people need to take this into consideration when they make their choices. I think that the community needs to look into these things for themselves and not just blow it off and go about business as usual. You have to think about things like this, because regardless of the outcome, whoever wins this, you will be affected. And the token price, unfortunately, will be affected. So it will impact you at some point. That's all I got to say about that.
I'm in agreement. I got to see I need to see more information about what's being alleged. I'm inventing reasons for both of them to be why they are good or why they're bad, and ultimately we don't know, because it's up to them to deliver the actual what's going on. So, in that case, this is why we need to send Eric and Wright Thurston a case of Faz Radio beer.
Yes.
Because they this is going to continue. This is the start of a lot of pop. Maybe we can send them popcorn buckets with popcorn in it. That might be easier than beer, but I'd really like the beer.
Ooh, Gala film would go right with that, and we'll get somebody to sing a Gala song for Gala Music. And we'll have one of the artists. No, we'll turn a zip bug into a game character, and we'll put all of that on the beer can that says Faz Radio, and we'll send that to them. When they open it, it'll have the music that plays.
That sounds complicated.
Come with some popcorn. Yeah,
let's just start with a black can of Faz Radio beer and popcorn. We can get more elaborate later.
Yes. So in this wonderful community, if you know somebody who prints beer cans, not stickers, but prints not covers. I know they have those ones that make a beer look like a.
I have $300 in the Faz Radio account that's burning a hole in my pocket.
I'll contribute more if we can get these cans made. But I do want to have an actual can, because I want to keep one for myself too. I might steal one of Thirsty's beers, pun intended.
Well, if we're 50-50 in this, and you steal some of my beers, then wouldn't you have to have been
It's for security. Relax. It's just for the security of it.
Then I trust you. Okay. All right. Let's wrap this up, because I got to get going.
All
I'm
right,
hungry.
let me go push my button here.
Thank
you for hanging with us all night long. This was a long one. We will see you very soon.